If you're tuning in, this is Magz FM. I have the honour of having Valerie Gay. She's the Executive Director of the Arts Sanctuary, and her daughter, Nasya. And my man, Ollie.
Hey.
And my other man, Tim.
Hey.
Big up, big up, big up. We're talking about Celebration of Black Arts Month. July is Celebration of Black Arts Month, and it's a whole month-long celebration taking place at the Arts Sanctuary. 16th and... where is that?
Yep, 16th and Bainbridge. Yep, 628 South 16th Street.
I got a couple of questions, right?
Sure.
Tell me the history of that gallery and that block. People, check out this information, man. It's just some really interesting... Start now.
So I am so grateful. That area, which is now people call it Graduate Hospital. So if you're a transplant from Philadelphia, you call it Graduate Hospital. If you're from Philadelphia, you call it South Philly. So that area... around 16th and Bainbridge was a multi-economic Black community, and everything happened there. So you had people who lived in tenements, but you also had pretty wealthy folks, relatively speaking, living in that community. About 100 years ago, there was a couple named the Dickersons. Addie Whiteman Dickerson was married to G. Edward Dickerson. Mr. Dickerson was one of the first Black graduates from the Temple University Law School. He graduated in 1902. They graduated their first law class in 1901. Mr. Dickerson was an assistant city solicitor. He's a lawyer. He was a lawyer. He represented lots of folks. He successfully indicted 2 white police officers for murdering a Black man in the Grace Ferry riots in 1919. I'll just let that sit for a second. His wife, Addie, was an amazing woman. She was the city's first Black female notary public, which was a big thing back in the day. She was a realtor. She was big in the suffrage movement. She was also quite a leader just nationally. She sat on the board of trustees for the Bethune-Cookman College, now university. In fact, in 1931, she was invited by President Herbert Hoover to come to the White House with a bunch of national Black leaders to talk about the African-American condition in America. So this couple, we call them a power couple from the turn of the last century. Most of their work happened where Art Sanctuary is right now at that building at 628 South 16th Street. His office is on the second floor where our offices are currently, and her office is on the first floor where our gallery is. And so in that space there, although in the back, actually in the space where the courtyard is and the kitchen is where they would hold things like political rallies and meetings around the suffrage movement and artistic salons. And then upon their death, they left that building. They died in 1940 within months of each other. She died in April, he died in October. And their son predeceased them, so they had no heirs. They left the building in trust to be used to improve and uphold the Negro race. So Art Sanctuary, we get to use that building for $1 a year, which allows us to have free programming. It allows us to have intimate programming in our gallery, which allows us to have a gallery, which allows us to have dedicated walls to artists of color, and specifically Black artists, because if you go around the city, there's a dearth of gallery space for Black folks. It's just what it is in the city. And so we're really grateful because their legacy, them looking out all those years ago and looking and seeing into the future. And the thing that I love about it is that we're not related to them, right? So we hear about multi-generational wealth building, how we can leave things to the next generation. And that's what we should all do. But what would it look like if we all also thought about what the next generation is going to look like, or generations beyond us that have no relation to us? It's about our community. So yeah, that's our building. That's our legacy. And so we are living out their mission. And again, in that community, if you come to that space, a quarter of a block away on Bainbridge Street, there is something called the Hotel Brotherhood that was established in like the 1860s. It's on Bainbridge Street between 15th and 16th. Yes, the Hotel Brotherhood was a fraternal order that provided death and health benefits for Black hotel workers.
Mad. I did not know that.
Yes. And they actually had to disband after desegregation laws. Because lots of folks just went to the white organizations and then kind of left their organization behind. But now it's been resurged as like a private club, which is cool. But they were there. The Philadelphia Tribune, which has been continuously published since 1884, is 1 block away.
Yes.
You know, at 16th and Lombard.
What's his name? Hugo? What's his name?
Mr. Bogle.
Bogle.
Robert Bogle is the publisher. His father was the publisher before that. And 2 blocks away is the Tinley Temple at Broad and Fitzwater. Tinley Temple and Charles A. Tinley, was arguably the father of gospel music. His church can seat 5,000 people, which was amazing. So think about that, like in the 1800s, early 1900s, 5,000 people in a church. That's like the true mega church, like the beginnings of that. And there were several congregations like that.
Where's that located?
That's at Broad and Fitzwater, right across the street from the Clef Club. The Clef Club is another historical site for us because
we are getting our black on today, ladies and gentlemen. Get in, Valerie, get in.
Yes, because the Clef Club was started by the black musicians. And it was a black musicians union because, again, oftentimes we have to start our own when we are left out of other things. And then people really start to like it. And then we kind of disband and we join, everybody else, which is wonderful, but we can't forget our own, right? We can't forget how we started, and we have to support our organizations. And so the Clef Club, this is an amazing thing, again, started with the Black Musicians Union. Black people were not allowed to join the other unions. And so the Clef Club is there. Next to the Clef Club is Brandywine Press, I think it's called. And it's a printmaking shop. It's right there on Broad Street between Bainbridge and Fitzwater. Kind of sits back, the MAB shop. There's across the street from
shop,
right next to it. Before you get to the Clef Club is Brandywine. Yes, and that is an awesome space too. They do all kinds of print and all kinds of visual art is there, which is amazing.
Are you giving tours? So you should get.
I feel like I often say to people, I've said to teachers, come to our gallery, and when you come to our gallery, we have a little brochure that says how to look at art. Here's some techniques. Here's some techniques that artists use that you want to look at. And I say to folks, hey, come look. This is a little curriculum. Come with your lunches, and then just take a little walking tour, a history tour. It's free. I can't pay for your school bus, but if you can get there, then you have this amazing set of history right around us. And then just a couple of blocks away is the Marian Anderson Park. Marian Anderson, she was phenomenal. The Union Baptist Church, which is at 19th and Fitzwater, is not the church that she actually sang in, but that it was her church. They moved, that building sadly was torn down last year because developers wanted to build up more condos. Yay. So anyway, that neighborhood where we are, where Art Sanctuary is, I give that history for folks because the history has the opportunity to be forgotten and will be forgotten unless we put a stake in the ground and say that we were here. And again, we're open to all. Where Art Sanctuary is right now is one of the fastest gentrifying communities in the country. It is mostly completely gentrified now. And Lauren, I was talking to you about this before, and I use the analogy of an archaeological dig. And when we were in school, I don't know what grade that is, like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and you see the cross-section of the earth, and you see like the Paleolithic period, and you see some dirt, and then there's some more people over top of that, and there's more dirt, and we can see like how the earth, like the crust of the earth, go, and when you dig and you see who was there, I feel like that's what's happening right now.
But we can't see our past.
But we can't see our past.
See who was here before.
That's exactly why we have to be strong in what we do and really put a stake in it. Because here's the thing. There are people, there are homes right around Art Sanctuary. There are homes where people have owned their homes, or families, generations have owned the homes for decades. Philadelphia is also a city where we had a high percentage of black ownership, black and white, middle-class ownership. We're a very high city for that, high percentage rate, but it's decreasing. And in that, in some ways, we've heard that home ownership is such a good thing, and somehow or another we made it a bad thing for Black Philadelphians. Whereas folks own these homes, they pass them on to their families. So we know families within right around our sanctuary where they're not leaving; they've been there forever. And then you have someone who's just paid $1 million or $2 million for their home. They tore down the old townhouse and built a McMansion, and it's really big and they're beautiful. They're not leaving either. And so we got to figure out a way that we can be in community. And so what we've seen at Art Sanctuary is that we are in community with lots of folks. So, for example, we've been the sanctuary, literally, for a Reformed Jewish community when they were in between homes. During their high holy days, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they had their services in our gallery. We've done things like, and Nasya can tell you, as the rentals facility manager, we'll do baby showers and weddings. I've sung at a funeral, literally, in our gallery, everything from people in the community. And so people are in community with us. They're not in community with each other. And so our goal is to figure out, one, how to do that and be unapologetically Black in that and talk about the beauty of our culture, but at the same time bring people together, because otherwise we will forget, and our past it'll be 50 years from now or 100 years from now somebody's digging up like, oh look, Black people used to be there, and we don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that our culture remains.
Here's a few questions. We've got to wind up in a few minutes. What have you both discovered about each other through this little process, working together?
Are you a therapist? You asked me.
I am. What is it? Arts. What is it? A foot movement thingy? I'm a foot motion. I don't know.